Ohio. Oh, I'm from Cincinnati.
Then let my angels sing. Then let my angels sing. Then let my angels sing.
Letting go of fear, letting go of sorrow, holding on to faith, hoping for a better tomorrow. It's gotta be a brighter day. It's gotta be a brighter day.
Seeking out my window, looking beyond my in-depth feelings of desperation. While many other broken families sit patiently waiting while yet contemplating, wondering, when will we make it up out of this financial rut, fit enough to live out our dreams, while seeking for better ways in hope for brighter.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we are here. So I am excited to be before you on this evening and to have you to join us for this interview tonight. As you all know, this is the Walking Miracles series of interviews. And so we are interviewing various people that have experienced various miracles. And tonight, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce herself as she tells you what her miracle actually was.
Well, good evening. My name is Julie. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I actually, like your previous guest, had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is pregnancy-induced heart failure. The doctors, like many of us that have this, they don't catch it. And they tell us all kinds of things, you know. Mine was because I was 42 when I had my child. Mm-hmm. It was, you're not 23 anymore. You're just dehydrated. Drink more water. Yeah. And that was just drowning myself, honestly, because my lungs and my heart, the pericardium was so full of fluid that I was just drowning myself by drinking all that water. So I went back to the OBGYN every week after my daughter was born. And thankfully, she had much older brothers. I was not expecting my daughter. She was the best surprise ever. Her brothers she is now 6, and her brothers are now 25 and 23. Wow. So they were 17 and 19 when she was born. And thankfully that they were that age and they both still lived at home, because I needed a lot of help. My oldest son actually had to drive me to the OBGYN. He had to help me into the car because I couldn't even get in the car by myself. He had to drive me there, go inside, get a wheelchair, come out, put me in the wheelchair, put his sister in my arms, and then wheel me into the doctor because I couldn't walk more than 5 or 10 feet without being out of breath. Wow. Yeah, I was so swollen that my legs were actually seeping fluids, and our carpet was soaking wet in front of the couch where I sat all the time. So,
when did you first discover that something was wrong or that you had an issue?
I was actually in the hospital and they had not discharged me yet. Mm-hmm. And they were getting ready to discharge me. And I kept telling them, I don't feel right. My legs feel like concrete. And they were full of fluid at that time. And I just didn't know it. They were just so heavy. And they were like, oh, you're fine. Your vitals are fine. You can go home. And that's when I first felt it. But looking back, I do remember, like, about a month before she was born, maybe a month and a half, I would get fatigued very easily and out of breath very easily. So,
right. Was that different from your previous pregnancies? I know there was a time span between the pregnancies and an age difference in your children, but from your recollection, was there any issues during your previous pregnancies that would have kind of hinted you towards believing something was wrong this time?
No, and after everything, I looked back, and the only thing that was even remotely similar was that with my first pregnancy, after I got out of the hospital, my feet swelled up really badly, but they went right back down. It wasn't anything more than 24 hours.
Wow. So I heard you say you had the shortness of breath. Did you have any in the swelling? Did you have any other symptoms that would be considered outside of the norm for what they would be looking for?
I had pulmonary embolisms, and I also had blood clots in my legs. So what else? I could not lay down. I slept sitting up. I actually slept sitting up, slumped forward, because I couldn't even hardly breathe when I was sitting straight up.
And it's so amazing to me that a lot of us have had the same symptoms, and with people repetitiously coming in with the same symptoms, you would think at some point they would begin to kind of tie things together and look at it in a different way so that they could catch this early. Have you found, or did you find that when you were going through this, that you had a hard time making the doctors listen to you, or getting them to fully understand what you were trying to tell them, what was going on with you?
The OBGYNs, I did have a really difficult time. I felt like they were ignoring me. I felt like they were acting like I was overreacting, like I was the drama queen. And after that fourth visit, I went every week for 4 weeks to the OBGYN. After the fourth visit, they finally did send me for a chest x-ray.
Okay.
And but I had gained 40 pounds in those 4 weeks. And they just kept saying it was normal swelling, drink more water, it'll go away. And they sent me for that chest x-ray. And my daughter was born on October 26th. So this was the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The week of Thanksgiving, I went to the OBGYNs for the fourth time. And that's when they did the chest x-ray. That Saturday night, it was very late. I tried to stand up and go to the bathroom. I couldn't even stand up. I told my husband, I really just need to go to the ER because something is seriously wrong.
Right.
And he took me, and I took my big jug of water with me like I was supposed to. And the ER doc, bless her heart, I love her. She took that water away from me. She said, I really think I know what's wrong with you. Let me run some tests to confirm, and then we'll discuss.
Right.
And they immediately put me on Lasix through IV. And she took some blood tests, and it's just a simple blood test.
Right.
My understanding, your BNP should be under 100, 150 maybe. I'm not really sure. But mine was 8,300 and something. So it was way out of control.
Right.
At this point, I was actually so out of it that I didn't really realize what was going on. And the doctor in the ER, I was using the bathroom frequently after the IV.
Right.
And I actually had to ask her for a catheter because I couldn't go back and forth to the bathroom so much. And she did give me that. And then she said that they were going to transfer me to another hospital because their hospital was not equipped to deal with somebody with severe symptoms like mine.
Wow.
So
wow.
I was ambulanced to the other hospital, and I did see a cardiologist frequently, and I do remember seeing him frequently. But my cardiologist that I see today is one of his coworkers, and she is actually the one that was behind my medication regimen. And she is the one that I credit, other than the ER doc, with saving my life. Because my blood pressure is normally on the low side of normal anyway. And to treat this condition, they have to give you medications to lower your blood pressure.
Right.
Well, then I was bottoming out and fainting. And the doctor that was seeing me regularly, he said he didn't know what to do. So he consulted his coworker, and she weaned me onto these medications. And because my blood pressure couldn't take the big, strong dose that I really needed.
Right.
So I would take a small dose until my body tolerated it, and then they would up it until I could tolerate it, and they would up it just until they got me to the dose they needed me to have.
Wow. So did they look at any of your family history? Did you have a history of any kind of cardiac issues in your family at all?
My mother's father died from some sort of cardiac issue, but I'm not really sure what it was. If there are cardiac issues, I really was unaware other than my mother's father.
Right. And with me, my dad had cardiac issues. He had bypass surgeries and things like that. They asked the normal routine questions, but they didn't apply them, you know, during the high-risk clinic visits or anything like that. I don't see where they really used it. And I think I read that you were a nurse. So
I've never been a nurse.
okay.
I have my bachelor's in nursing, but I
Okay.
never did take the boards.
Okay. Okay. But you went through the courses, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just didn't take the state testing.
Right, right. So, in seeing these symptoms, did you recognize them from some of the things that you had learned? Is that why you were continuing to pressure them and say, hey, look, something's not right here, something's going on? Were you able to really advocate for yourself on that end or that spectrum?
I was actually, my mind actually wasn't very clear at the time.
Okay.
And no, I did not recognize the symptoms that I should have recognized. In retrospect, yes, I can very much see, hey, you know, that's saying there's a cardiac issue. So, but at the time, no.
It was the same with me. Even though I was a nurse at the time, I was not in a mind state. And that's why I asked, because I wanted to hear from somebody else as well. You're not in a mental state to really be thinking about anything logically, because you have all of this excess fluid floating around in your body, and you're trying to breathe and focus and do what you can to keep yourself from having anxiety attacks and becoming fearful and putting yourself into a worse situation. So that's why I asked, because for me, mental health, I found, is a huge piece of this. You know, being able to have other people to advocate for you if you go through a crisis like this is so very important. Having those family members there with you that will fight for you, that will speak up for you, that will stand in the gap for you. It is so very important. And another challenge that a lot of us have faced is that our family members are not medical, or they don't really know the lingo or the jargon that these doctors come in using. And so they say all of this and they blurt all of this at you, and then they're left still not knowing what's happening.
Exactly.
Did you have anybody that was there with you during this time that could kind of navigate things, or did everything happen so quickly that, you know, you didn't even have time to really prepare for anything happening?
I didn't really have time, and I'm going to be honest, the thing that pushed me over the edge to go is one of my college roommates is an OBGYN in another state, and I did message her, and I told her my symptoms. I said, Christina, they're just not listening to me.
Right.
And she told me, go to the hospital right now. And I said, why? What's wrong? And she said, just go. Don't ask me questions.
Wow. Wow. And that's a blessing that you did have someone to tell you, listen, don't put it off any further to go.
Right.
A lot of our heart sisters don't even make it that far. You know, they run into this huge challenge before they can actually get to the doctor while they're still alert and awake. Even though I got to the hospital when I was alert and awake, when I got to the hospital, I actually coded because things had gotten on so far. So, I'm glad that, you were able to get to the hospital and you were still conscious at the time, to even speak or try to tell them a little bit of what was going on with you. Are there some other things? Is there any advice that you can give to someone that is newly diagnosed with this, as far as not going through some of the challenges that we may have faced when we went through this situation?
I would say myself, what would have really helped me was to find the person that you are closest to that has the biggest voice and make them go with you and make the doctors listen to you.
Yeah.
Because only you know your body.
That's
You
right.
know when something's not right. They may see this 100 times a day. They may think that you're being dramatic or whatever, but you know your body more than anyone else. And actually, some of my close friends that had come to visit me in those first few weeks said, you just really don't look very well. You really should go to the doctor. And I kept telling them I'm going every week. So,
For me,
somebody that with a big voice to advocate, definitely.
Yeah, for me, I had, when it happened to me, I had nursing school friends there that were there to explain to my husband what was going on, but it was a huge challenge, just, really kind of keeping track of what was going on. And I found that, it was very difficult getting them to listen. That was the number one thing, is getting them to listen and not think that you have anxiety, not letting them put you in a box of normalcy, saying swelling is normal. I know for me, which I'll get you to answer as well, knowing that I had previous pregnancies, they thought that I was just being paranoid because they said every pregnancy is different. So again, they did not take me seriously because they thought, okay, well, you're older now having a baby, so you're going to have different symptoms, different things are going to go on with you. It's not really anything to worry about. Did you find the same thing to be true because they found out that you had previous pregnancies?
Yes. For me, it was, they kept telling me, because even prior to delivery, I had gone in a couple times and said, something's not right. I just can't breathe very well. And they just said to me, you were 23 and 25 when you had your previous children. You are now 42, and your body's just not as good as it was when you were younger.
Yeah.
So I just took it at that. I was like, okay, I'm old.
I know. I'm like, just tell me I'm old, and use that as an excuse for not to listen again. Were you going to a high-risk clinic at the time? Because
I was not.
My age, I was sent to a high-risk clinic because of my age.
I was not.
Wow. So there's a lot of differences as well. Were you given a life vest at any point in time during your?
I was, and that was a struggle in itself, because when I went to the ER, before she told me my diagnosis, when she said, I think I know what's wrong with you, and she started looking at my charts, and apparently all the hospitals, and because it was a totally different hospital than where my child was born. But apparently they all linked their charts somehow, because she said, did they tell you that your chest x-ray was abnormal? And I said, no. And she's like, they really should have called you to tell you it was abnormal and to go to the doctor immediately. And I said, no, I haven't gotten a call for that.
Right.
So I went, and they sent me to another hospital, and I was in the cardiac ICU. And I got there really early Sunday morning because I went in very late Saturday night. And it was probably 4 or 5 in the morning, and they told my husband, she's now stable. You can go home, check on your daughter. Thank goodness my boys were old enough to take care of a newborn. So they were taking care of their sister, and my husband went home, and to check on everybody and make sure everybody had what they needed. And I don't know what happened because I was out of it, but they called him immediately after he got home and told him he needed to come back. Things are not looking good, and I'll probably need a heart transplant.
Oh, wow.
So he came rushing back, and by then I was stabilized. I don't know what happened because I was so out of it. And then they talked about the heart transplant with him, but not really with me that I remember.
Yeah.
And I know that they sent me for a CT scan, and I don't remember going to that either. But apparently I was really bad off when they called him.
Yeah.
And they did stabilize me with medications. And they finally, in the first 48 hours that I was at the hospital, they drained 72 pounds of fluid off of me.
Wow.
And after they drained all that fluid, the cardiologist said, we don't think you're going to need that heart transplant, but you'll probably need a defibrillator or something. And so I was mentally preparing for that.
Right.
And thank goodness, this ER was so wonderful, or the ICU was so wonderful. No children under 12 allowed in ICU, right? And
Yeah.
it's 2016, so there's no COVID. It's not a COVID protocol.
Right. Right.
But they would let my husband bring my daughter, and he would bring her about every day, once a day. So we did get to bond a little bit.
Yes.
But I was in the CICU, and then they transferred me to just the ICU when I got a little bit better. And I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
The first 2 weeks was in the ICU, and my cardiologist would not release me without a life vest. Well, here came the other problem, because I'm more than ready to go home at this point. I'm up, I'm showering, I feel great.
Mm-hmm.
And my ejection fraction was only like 10 to 15%. But I felt so much better with all that fluid off of me.
Right.
And the insurance company repeatedly denied the life vest.
Oh, my.
And my cardiologist would deny releasing me without it.
Right.
So they fought for several days when I could have been home with a life vest. And finally, my understanding is that a representative from the insurance company and my care team had a face-to-face meeting. And then a couple days after that, I was actually fitted with a life vest.
Oh, wow. Well, that was a blessing.
Yeah, it was.
Definitely a blessing. You know, I never experienced the life vest. I had a ejection fraction of 10 to 15%, but I was never really offered a life vest. So, you know, I'm reading, you know, different people's stories and hearing different stories. Some people are offered it and some people are not. So I guess it's just based around your cardiologist and what your cardiologist thinks is best for you. Prior to your episode or your diagnosis with PPCM, did you get a BNP test? Did they offer you a BNP test prior?
No, I had never heard of it.
Me either.
And, yeah, until I was actually out of the hospital and at my first cardiology checkup appointment, which was, you know, 3 weeks after I went in. So
right. I didn't get a BNP test. Until I actually went to the ER, and then I guess at that point they really had to give it to me because they needed to have a baseline of what was actually going on with me. So after the peripartum cardiomyopathy and everything that went on with you at the hospital, how did you keep yourself in a positive mindset? How did you get yourself back to the point where you were feeling okay, where you were feeling like, okay, I can be by myself for a little bit, I can do this? because I know a lot of us, when we first come home, we can't be alone. We have somebody with us at all times, because of safety reasons.
Well, as long as I was on the life vest, I was not allowed to be home alone.
Right.
So that was a few months that I wasn't allowed to be home alone. And I'm used to going back to work after 6 to 8 weeks, and
Right.
here it is January and I still have a life vest on. And I think I got to send that back in March. I think is when I got to send it back. Once my ejection fraction hit that 35%, they let me send it back.
Okay.
And then when I hit 40 or 45%, they let me go back to work, but I was on light duty.
Right.
And that was going to be okay because I worked in an office at a warehouse.
Okay.
And I had trained another person to do my job for when I was gone on maternity leave. Well, when I came back, there were some people that were the decision makers that, for whatever reason, were not fond of me, and they put me back in the warehouse, despite the light duty orders.
Okay.
And at that point, we had been living on pennies because, you get your short-term disability, but it's not as much as you normally make. And we had gone through any money we had left, and I had to work. I couldn't tell them, no, I can't go to the warehouse.
Right.
Because I needed the paycheck. So, but luckily I did get stronger. I went back to my cardiologist for a regular appointment, and she asked me why I had an appointment with the electrophysiologist. And I said, because you said I need a pacemaker or something. And she said, no, you're doing great. You don't need that anymore. Cancel that appointment. So I was very, very blessed to heal just on medication.
Yeah, me too. I'm very thankful for that, because they were talking about all of those things with me as well. Did you ever have to go to cardiac rehab? I know some people get cardiac rehab, some people don't. I had about 2-3 weeks of cardiac rehab, which I think was really beneficial to me.
I did go to cardiac rehab, and it's very strange to go into a room full of older men.
Yes.
And they're looking at you like, why are you here?
Yes.
So yeah, it's a room full of mostly older men, and we did treadmill and the bicycle, and then we used
the arms.
Yeah, the arm pedals. We did the stretchy bands. Yeah, I do remember that. And cardiac rehab was nice. I really liked it. I felt like I could do more than what they thought I could do, because we had to wear those monitors.
Yes.
And they always told me, slow down.
Yes. Me too. And I felt like, I wanted to go. I mean, it gave me security. It gave me a sense of peace, knowing that when I got home, I could at least walk, I could do certain things, because before cardiac rehab, I was like, I wanted to sit still. I didn't really want to move. I didn't know if my heart rate was going to elevate. So it was a lot of changing my thinking, in order to help myself to heal as well. Did you have to change a lot of your thinking once you came home and you had to begin to do different things, like go back to work and take care of your children? Did you find you had to change your mindset a little bit as to where you were when the crisis occurred?
A lot. Prior to being diagnosed, and prior to becoming so sick, I was very short-tempered. If I couldn't control it, I would be angry, and I would blurt out and get mad, and my stress would go on, and my heart would pound. And once I got home, I had to learn to not get so upset, because it was actually something that could have killed me.
Wow.
And now I am a very different person than I was 6 years ago.
Yes.
I am most of the time very calm. And I have actually had people tell me that I'm the calmest person they've ever met, that nothing riles me up. And I think that's because for a long time, I couldn't let anything rile me up.
Right, right. You make several adjustments and life changes. Diet was another huge one, having to really watch, what you eat and how you do things, how you cook, all of those things. People don't really look at the things that take place after the diagnosis. Even for those of us that have been living with this for a while, this has lifelong effects on us. And we are constantly having to keep ourselves positive, constantly having to encourage ourselves, constantly trying to, explain to people why we can't do certain things or why certain things are limited for us, and in coping with dealing with these things, just getting outside of the box and knowing that the good thing is that we can do all things, we can still push ourselves to a certain point. I'm pretty sure you push yourself every day to do more than what you did yesterday. Small steps taking small steps to get to your full potential of where you can be. And, I'm excited that we're still here to even have a conversation about it. I'm excited that we're here to share and to, enlighten and educate others on the different things and on our differences and on the likenesses that took place in our medical care as well.
I will be honest with the diet. At first, I was really good with it. And once I started improving, I wasn't so good with it, and I'm still not good with it.
Yeah.
I pretty much don't pay attention to the low salt and the healthier eating. That's just not me. It never has been.
Mhm.
So I've gone back to my old bad habits.
We all have our vices. That's what I say. We all have our vices. As long as we are striving to get where we need to get, we are doing good, because there's a lot that comes along with this peripartum cardiomyopathy. So we each do our own due diligence to make sure that we're being healthy and taking care of ourselves, and that we'll be around for a very long time with our families and our children. So how is your PPCM baby today? Did the PPCM have any effects on the birth of your child? Mine had no effects on the birth of my child.
Not that we've seen.
Okay.
Not that we've seen. Of course, you never know long term what might happen. Mm-hmm. But she is a kindergartner. She is a cheerleader. She's in dance. She just loves life. She absolutely loves life.
Very active.
Very active. Very active. But she's also a sleeper. So when I want to sleep in, I never have a problem, because if we don't wake her up, she won't wake up till 10 or 11.
Oh my goodness. So now what would you say, a lot of us that have had second opportunities at life and a chance to do things differently, what is something that in your life you have done differently? Something that you have said, okay, I am going to do this. This is something that I really, really wanted to do, or that you're working towards. You may not have done it yet. You may still be planning to do it, or you may still be thinking about, what is that thing that I want to do in my life since I have a second chance?
I actually, when my boys were younger, I was a single mom for a while. I'm on my second marriage. The boys are from my first marriage. But I missed so much stuff because I was a single mom and I had to work, and I was going to nursing school full time while I was working full time, and they were in sports, and I had to find people to get them there and get them to the games. And it was really difficult. I never could go to a game. I would study during their practices. And I just feel like I missed out a lot on their young life. Once they were in high school, because the games were Friday nights, they were interested in marching band. I was able to go to the games because I wasn't working on Friday nights. But Saturday mornings, I was still working. So if there was anything Saturday morning, I still couldn't go. And since she has come around, I found another job. I wasn't at that warehouse anymore. I found another job that was pretty much 9 to 4, 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, occasionally a Saturday. And I did enjoy it. I was the manager of several mobile pantries and 2 concrete pantries, food pantries.
Okay.
And it did require me to be able to answer my phone almost all the time or check on something at any time. And I actually took a pay cut a year ago, last December, at the end of the year, the 27th of December.
Okay.
And went to another company. I now work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I have to take an hour lunch break. I'm not allowed to clock in before 8. I'm not allowed to clock out after 5. It's 40 hours straight, and that's it. Outside of those hours, I have no responsibilities.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And so if you could leave everyone with a positive statement or a positive quote, what would it be? What would you say to somebody to encourage them?
I would say, your family's the most important people or the most important. Achieving your goals is nice, but sometimes it's not the most important thing. You have to really grasp what you value most in life and hang on to that.
Yes. That is one of the things that I learned, is that time is so precious and that it is not guaranteed to anyone, despite your age, despite your ethnicity, despite anything. It's not guaranteed to anyone. And to value, like you said, that time with your family, that time with your friends. And, it really got to me when you said, you had to change a lot of your behaviors, like getting angry quickly and all of those things. You start to look at life differently. You start to look at your situations differently. You start to look at things like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal that I'm going to get upset about that. I'm going to think about it differently. I'm going to look at that person differently. And so that is one of the other things that cardiomyopathy taught me, is that life is precious and the time that you have is precious. So take it, run with it, do the most with it, do the things that you wanted to do in life, and just live, laugh, and love.
Right.
And so I'm just grateful, to have this opportunity to be able to talk to you all and to shed some light on the different things that we went through, some of the different traumas that we experienced, because I think that we're pretty strong because we've had to overcome a lot of things mentally that people don't realize. People don't realize that some of us have a form of the PTSD because they want to just affiliate it with the military, right. But when you've been through trauma like this, it has effects on you, and you have to constantly keep yourself in a positive mindset, constantly.
Well, because I had to be able to dictate how everything went on in my house. Still, my husband and I have those little nitpicky arguments because he's like, you just want to control me. And he doesn't understand that it's not about that anymore. It's about, this is not a good decision, and here's why.
Right. Yeah, I think with me, I have a lot of the control. Most of us that have gone to school for nursing or that are nurses, we're very, we like things done a certain way.
Yeah.
So by having that done a certain way, you know, when somebody kind of goes away from that, it'll get irritable, or it'll cause you to become irritable. And then you just have to be like, oh Lord, I'm getting irritable again about this. But you know, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having a set structure and having a pattern for doing things. You know, we just show others out of love how to do it, because I'll say 9 times out of 10 we're correct at what we're saying. So, you know, because either we've experienced it, or, you know, we've learned a better pattern or a better way to do something. Everybody does things differently, but, you know, my thing is, if you know that somebody else can do it better or knows a better way or a better pattern, that's not controlling. That's just being wise and listening to that person so that you can both get ahead.
Right. I've become very, very good at picking my battles. You know?
Yes, yes. And so I'm excited to share this interview with others. I'm excited about the people that will go back and watch the replay and, you know, get more information. If you guys want more information on peripartum cardiomyopathy, you can always reach out. I do have an organization called PPCM Healthy Hearts. There are a lot of different Facebook groups now that you can become a part of, where you can get your questions answered, whether you just want to have that outlet to have people to talk to you and encourage and uplift you, and just kind of push you to keep going on those down days, whether you have issues with symptoms that you're having a difficult time getting the doctors to listen to you. These groups are so wonderful. And I am just finding these groups within the last 5 years of my diagnosis. I never even thought to look for the groups prior to, you know, any of this. And then, you know, it just came upon me. Let's look and see if there's any groups on this. And when I found those groups, when I tell you, you know, it has really encouraged me and really helped me. And I wish I had these groups when I first came home from the hospital, because a lot of times people don't understand what you're going through. Did you find that a lot of people, even family members, didn't understand what you were going through, and they were accusing you of like anxiety or things like that?
Yeah, even my immediate family that I lived with, they were like, well, they fixed you at the hospital, so I don't understand why you can't do this, why you can't do that. So, yeah, they were like that somewhat, but at the same time, they were very understanding, because what I would do is I would get up and try, and then I would be so out of breath, and they would be like, sit down, Mom, sit down.
Yes. One of the issues with peripartum cardiomyopathy is we look like we're fine. And so people just take for granted that there's nothing going on, that everything's fine, that there's no issues because of what we look like on the outside.
Right.
So then when you express to people the different things that you may go through or the different issues that you may have, they're looking at you like a deer in the headlights, like, no, it's probably all in your mind because you experienced that. When really it is not. People take for granted our physical appearance a lot of times. And, you know, it's sometimes very difficult to handle, because sometimes you feel like you want to rest and you're not allowed to because of what people see on the outside.
One thing that I am so grateful for, and it just sounds like the dumbest thing to be grateful for, but I don't care how far out in a parking lot I have to park, because there was a time when I couldn't do it. I had to park in those handicapped spaces, and I could barely make it in to get on my scooter.
Yes.
And, you know, it was just really, really hard, and I don't wish it on anybody. And I used to be so bad, especially when I was younger, about, well, they don't look handicapped. Why are they parking there?
Right.
And after I went through that, I was like, now I understand. People have all kinds of illnesses and hurts, and you don't know. You never know what somebody else is going through.
You don't. And I don't think that that's anything small at all. You know, it's those little things, it's those little moments that make us grateful and have gratitude for all the blessings and all the things that God has actually brought us through and allowed us to see now. Those little teeny things, waking up, and just being able to use your limbs, waking up and being able to walk from your bed to your bathroom without being out of breath, walking
Being
down your
able,
stairs.
just being able to lay in a bed.
Yes, 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 it is. We are truly walking miracles, as my shirt says. We are truly walking miracles. We really, really are. To be here, to just be allowed again another opportunity at life to spend it with our husbands and our children and loved ones, and just be thankful and to show gratitude for those little teeny things, like you said. I never even thought about that, because I will park far away in the parking lot as well, just because, I'm like, I need to walk. So I'll just park far away.
Well, I try to find a closer spot, but if I have to park far away, it doesn't upset me at all. I'm just like,
Right.
there was a time when I couldn't do this.
And it's the same with driving for me. I was a person that didn't really like driving like that, but now I decided this year that I'm not going to let driving hold me back from, going to places that I want to go and doing the things that I want to do. And, I want to do things a lot differently. I want to live life to the fullest.
Exactly.
Joyful and be happy. And one of the other things is that, I really hope that one day all of the Heart Sisters can kind of come together at a gathering and just, love up on each other, and just because we understand each other. We understand what each other's been through. Our spouses don't really understand fully what we go through or what we've been through. Our children don't really understand fully what we've been through, but we understand each other and those things that have taken place in our life and the changes that we've had to adjust to in our lives. And it's just good counsel being around people that really fully understand your plight in life.
Well, I don't know if you knew, but there is an annual event in Vegas every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll try to find information on that and send it to you.
Okay.
But the Heart Sisters meetup, I do believe it's in Vegas every year, and they always give out a few scholarships for people that can't afford to go.
Oh, wow. Okay. That would
So,
be awesome, especially to share that with others. So if you find out, if you can put it in the comments, that would be awesome, because there may be other people that really want to connect and might want to be interested in it. And I know one of our Heart Sisters, Brianna Henderson.
oh yeah, I love her. Love her.
Yes, PPC. Let's talk PPCM. And
She has gone so far.
Yes, she's having an event in May. So,
yeah.
I'm thinking about trying to get to that event in May, because it would be wonderful to meet her in person, because she's making such strides. And then our other Heart Sister, Lindsay Stoloff.
Peterson, yeah.
Yes, she is another, she is with the PPCM fund. So she is a wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to that BNP testing and educating on that BNP testing. She's in California and Brianna is in Texas. And
Correct.
I'm in Virginia. And where are you located?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes.
And then there's another one called Save the Mommies.
Okay.
I know that at one point she was very active. I haven't seen a lot of activity lately, but I don't know if maybe she's posting other places. I only have Facebook. I don't do Instagram or Twitter or any of that.
Okay. So. Okay. I have to check it out and go look and see if she's still on Facebook or if she's taken her page down or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She was very active for a while, around 2016, 17, 18.
Okay.
And I haven't seen a lot lately, but it doesn't mean that she's not still active. It just means that I'm not seeing it in my newsfeed.
Right. We also have Mama's Voice, and then we also have the Preeclampsia Foundation as well. And, they've been kind of connecting as far as the peripartum cardiomyopathy, putting pieces together with that puzzle as well with the preeclampsia, because a lot of times the peripartum cardiomyopathy gets overshadowed by preeclampsia. That's
yes.
the first go-to that people go to. That's the first thing people say, oh, you have preeclampsia, but with us, it's a lot deeper than just preeclampsia. It's also, it's a lot going on further than the high blood pressure. It's a lot more than high blood pressure. So, just bringing this awareness and bringing light to this. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being willing to share your story. Thank your family for, being willing to let you come on and share your story. We really are trying to bring awareness to this peripartum cardiomyopathy to stop these mortality rates, to lower these mortality rates in our communities, because it is not a respecter of persons. We just have to learn better ways and advocate for ourselves more to get these physicians, nurses, whoever we can get to listen in our communities to advocate. We have to fight and press forward to get these things done so that we can have more survivors instead of more victims. So if you guys would like more information, you can inbox me right on Facebook. You can DM me. I'm on all social media platforms. Stay tuned for more interviews concerning miracles. I know we focused a lot on PPCM because that is very important to me. That is near and dear to my heart.
Right.
But we do realize that we are walking miracles. But in being walking miracles, it is our mission, it is our purpose to spread awareness as well. So it's not about being doomy or gloomy. It's about educating and spreading awareness so that we can have more walking miracles. So until next time, we love you guys, and peace and blessings to you all.
Then let my angels sing.
Letting go of fear, letting go of sorrow, holding on to faith, hoping for a better tomorrow. It's gotta be a brighter day. It's gotta be a brighter day.
Seeking out my window,